You know, some of the most famous texts in the world aren't just collections of ideas. They're actually masterpieces of literary engineering. Today, we're going to uncover a hidden architectural link between two ancient prologues written centuries apart. It's a connection that reveals a massive shift in history, from revering a written text to following a living person. And it all kicks off in a place you'd probably never expect.
So it really all boils down to this one simple question. We use words every single day, right? But what if the original meaning of a word held a secret, a key that could completely change how we read some of history's most important texts?
Okay, so take the Hebrew word Haggah. We usually translate it as to meditate, and we picture someone thinking, silently and internally. But get this, its original meaning is totally physical. It's auditory. It means to mutter, to murmur. It can even mean to growl like a lion over its prey. This isn't quiet contemplation. It's a full-body, vocal rehearsal of the text. I mean, just that one little insight, it changes everything.
Now, this isn't just some neat little trivia point. It's actually a field of study called morphology, which is all about looking at how words are built. When we uncover the real meaning of Haggah, it's like we found a hidden blueprint in the language itself. And trust me, it's not the only one.
All right, so this table really lays out the blueprints for a few key words from Psalm 1. Let's look at the first one, Ashrei. Its root literally means to advance. So happiness isn't just a passive feeling, it's about making progress on the right path. We've already met Haggah, that vocal muttering, and then look at Peleg. The streams that nourish the righteous person aren't just any old rivers, they're deliberately dug irrigation channels. The language itself is painting this vivid picture of intentional, physical devotion, all happening under the care of like a master gardener.
Okay, so we've seen the building blocks, right? The individual words. Now let's zoom out and see the actual structure they create. You see, Psalm 1 isn't just a random poem. It was deliberately placed right at the beginning. It's the gateway to the entire book of Psalms, a masterfully designed blueprint for the whole journey.
And its main job, really, is to lay out this one super fundamental idea, the doctrine of the two ways. As you can see, there's no gray area here, no middle ground. The psalm basically forces you to make a choice between a path that leads to flourishing and a path that leads to ruin. And this very concept becomes the foundation for pretty much all biblical wisdom.
And the architecture of this psalm is just brilliant. It uses a structure called a chiasmus, which is basically a literary sandwich. Just follow along here. It starts with the righteous person, that's A, then it moves to the metaphor of the flourishing tree, that's B, and it lands right on the absolute center, the Torah, or the law, that's C. Then it mirrors that pattern perfectly in reverse. You get the worthless chaff, B prime, and the wicked person's destiny, A prime. This structure literally forces you to see that the law is the absolute unshakable center of a life that actually works.
And it's not just the big structure. The smaller poetic details are just as clever. This technique is called staircase parallelism. Just watch the verbs here. First, you walk, then you stand, and finally you sit. It's a masterful map of the gradual slide from just being casually exposed to wickedness to having a completely solidified rebellious identity. I mean, wow, what a powerful warning laid out in just 3 simple steps.
Okay, get ready, because we're going to jump forward a few hundred years to a completely different prologue written in a different language in a totally different world. The beginning of John's Gospel has a surprisingly similar job. It's an introduction, but this one has a huge cosmic twist.
So the key word here is the Greek term logos, which we translate as the Word. Now, for Greek philosophers at the time, the logos was this impersonal, rational principle that brought order to the universe. But John, he takes this popular idea and masterfully fills it with deep Jewish tradition, where the Word of God was seen as God's personal, creative power. What he's doing is genius. He's building a bridge between two completely different worldviews.
And he pulls this off with some incredibly precise grammar. Seriously, check this out. When he talks about the logos, he uses a Greek verb that means eternally was. It's this continuous existence with no beginning. But for everything else, the creation, even John the Baptist, he uses a completely different verb, one that means came into being at a specific moment in time. This simple verb choice creates this huge, uncrossable line. You have the eternal, uncreated Word on one side and the entire created world on the other.
And hey, sound familiar? Just like in Psalm 1, John uses that same staircase technique. Watch this. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then it just keeps going. In him was life, and that life was the light. You see how that works? Each phrase just latches on to the one before it, creating this incredible cascade of revelation, building a whole cosmic theology, one step at a time.
So what do we got? We have two just masterfully built prologues. One is constructed around a sacred text, and the other is built around a living person. Okay, this is the moment. Let's bring them together and see this amazing synthesis.
This right here, this is the crucial shift. The absolute center of the universe in Psalm 1 is the written law, the Torah. What John does is he deliberately takes that center and he swaps it out for a person, the incarnate Logos, the Word that became human.
This table just lays out the whole paradigm shift perfectly. Look, in Psalm 1, God's revelation is a text, the law. In John 1, it becomes a person, the Logos. And because of that, the human response has to change too. It's no longer about that physical rehearsal of a text, that haga or muttering. Now it's about relational trust in a person, what the Greek calls pisteo or belief. The entire game changes. It goes from an action you do to a person you know.
And once you see that fundamental shift, all the metaphors from both texts suddenly click into place. They just harmonize in this really powerful way. Remember that tree from Psalm 1, the one thriving by the streams of the law? Well, John's prologue takes that beautiful image and just takes it to a whole new level. He reveals that the ultimate source of that life isn't a text at all, but the Logos himself, the one who literally is life and light. It's like he's taking that beautiful metaphor to its final, ultimate conclusion.
So, what about that whole two ways idea? John uses the exact same framework. But in Psalm 1, the choice you make is based on how you behave toward the law. In John 1, that choice gets reframed. It's all about your orientation to the light. Do you welcome it or do you run from it?
It's almost like the choice that Psalm 1 just talks about. Well, in John's prologue, it becomes this unavoidable reality. The light itself shows up and forces everyone's hand. It becomes the great divider, compelling every single person onto one of those two paths.
So when you put it all together, you see this incredible story unfold. One prologue, Psalm 1, prepares us to receive God's wisdom through the disciplined, physical meditation on a text. And the other, John 1, comes along and announces that this very same wisdom, this Logos, has now become a person you can actually know.
I mean, it just reveals this mind-blowing level of literary and theological artistry, right? And it really leaves us with one final kind of provocative thought. If this much architectural genius is hiding in just the first few verses of two ancient books, what else is just waiting there, hiding in plain sight for us to discover?